So an insider for the Chiefs thinks that KC could make a pretty surprising move to start the season that has some fans confused and wondering why they would sign another player to a pretty decent-sized contract just to sit him on the bench. There's much more to this than meets the eye though, and quick social media posts do not give full context. Well, in today's video, I'm gonna attempt to do just that, but I also got to talk about a former Chief getting a well-deserved payday, the Tush push nearly getting banned, and the Eagles trolling the hell out of everybody, and more. But first, how about those? Alright, there's plenty to talk about today, so here we go. For starters, after the Bears traded for left guard Joe Thuney, the plan was to get him extended since he was on the last year of his deal. That's kind of part of the reason why the Chiefs traded him anyway, because he had a pretty large $26 million cap hit, and the Bears delivered. Joe Thuney received a 2-year extension at $17.5 million per year, making this a 3-year, $51 million contract that includes $33.5 million fully guaranteed. This is a very well-deserved payday for one of the best guards in all of football. He's only allowed 8.5 sacks over the last 4 seasons, which is the fewest of any guard or tackle with 2,000 or more pass block snaps since 2021. So yeah, he has more than earned it. I hate that he was traded, but love to see him get taken care of for what'll most likely be the remainder of his NFL career. The Thuney trade was certainly a bit surprising because I thought KC would try to extend him themselves, but instead they franchise tagged Trey Smith with the goal of getting a long-term deal done with the guard who is roughly 6.5 years younger than Thuney. On that note, they have until mid-July to get a deal done with Trey Smith, or he plays the year on the franchise tag, and I'm pretty hopeful a deal does get done. Obviously, we'll see what ends up happening. I need to talk more about the O-line in a bit, but before I do, when the Chiefs traded away Joe Thuney, they got a 2026 4th-round pick for him. Well, the Chiefs actually used that pick in the 3rd round of this year's draft to move up and draft cornerback Nohl Williams, the ball hawk out of the University of California. So the hope is Nohl eventually becomes a quality starter in the secondary, especially considering what was given up to go and get him. And then obviously you have multiple cornerbacks from the 2022 draft class on the last year of their deal. Najee Johnson, Josh Williams, and Jalen Watson. Now, for what it's worth, Nohl was one of my favorite draft picks in this year's draft, and while I'm not sure he plays a ton of defensive snaps his rookie year, unless injuries hit the room, he is still a pretty exciting prospect. He ended up signing his rookie deal yesterday, by the way, with that being $6.3 million that included a $1.2 million signing bonus. That now means that every pick has signed their deals, aside from Kansas City's 2nd rounder and defensive tackle Omar Norman Lott. I thought Norman Lott might be the last to sign his deal because for the first time in NFL history, some of the early 2nd round draft picks from this year's class have contracts that are fully guaranteed. I don't think that's going to be the case for the Chiefs' new defensive tackle, but it could drive his guarantees up, and that might take a little time to get ironed out. Either way, I'm not concerned about Omar Norman Lott not yet signing on the dotted line, and he most likely ends up signing sometime before mandatory minicamp mid-June. Now, let's talk about another draft pick, with that being their 1st rounder, offensive tackle Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, because things kind of went a little crazy yesterday when Adam Teicher, a longtime Chiefs beat reporter with ESPN, went on 810 Sports Radio and said he thinks the plan is for Josh Simmons to be the starting left tackle for the Chiefs as soon as week 1 of this season. He said, quote, "If Josh Simmons is okay, if he's ready to go, and the Chiefs and Simmons feel like he can play and be an effective player, he's going to be their left tackle. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's of the belief that Josh Simmons is plan A for the Chiefs for the starting left tackle spot, and Jaylon Moore is actually plan B." He then went on to say, though, that obviously the knee has to be all good to go in this equation, but if the knee looks great and Simmons comes along quickly enough, he absolutely could be the starting left tackle for the team as soon as week 1. Well, after this was said, a post on X started to make its rounds as Chiefs Blitz said, per Adam Teicher, quote, "If Josh Simmons is okay and ready to go, he will be the Chiefs starting left tackle to begin the season." The problem with that post was it's just one sentence in a 3 to 4 minute answer from Adam Teicher, and it didn't really encapsulate all of his thoughts. He actually went on to say, hey, if Jaylon Moore is playing really well, there won't be any need to rush Simmons out there and they can take their time with him. That's the way that honestly makes the most sense to me. Why rush Simmons out there if it's not absolutely necessary? Don't risk 6 to 8 years of quality left tackle play for the sake of bringing him in too soon this season. If everything pans out, Simmons could be the best left tackle KC has had since Eric Fisher, and that's even if he's only 90% of how he was able to play pre-injury. Well, this news obviously didn't sit well with some Chiefs fans because $15 million per year is being paid to Jaylon Moore on that 2-year deal, and that is quite a bit of money to invest in a backup left tackle. The truth is, there is no way the Chiefs knew who they were going to get in the draft. And so you go into the draft with a potential starting left tackle. If you can get another left tackle, you do it. And that's what they did. Honestly, the reason why they were probably comfortable with taking Simmons at pick 32 is because they had Jaylon Moore already on the roster. This is the best case scenario for Simmons and the team, and allows for him to just get that knee right, learn the system, and make sure that knee is fully good to go before stepping out there in an actual game. At the end of the day, if Simmons does beat out Jaylon Moore for the starting spot, who cares? Just protect Patrick Mahomes at all costs, please, for the love of God. He was the most hit quarterback in the NFL last year, so I don't really care who's out there. It doesn't even matter. Just put out the best 5 and let's freaking go. Now, with that being said, KC could move on from Jawaan Taylor after the season, and I could very well see Jaylon Moore being the team's right tackle with Simmons playing on the left side in 2026. If things do play out like that, $15 million isn't really all that much for a starting caliber right tackle. But even if we just stay focused up on this season, 2025, the more tackle depth, the better. If Simmons is on the bench to start the season as he continues to get right, if injuries do hit the room, whether that's Jawaan Taylor or Jaylon Moore, Simmons would be a fantastic option to slot in there on either side. All that to say, this is a win-win situation for the Chiefs, who lost the Super Bowl because of no left tackle, and their left guard, Joe Thuney, had to kick out to left tackle. That played a big role in their loss. So you fix that. You even overcompensate slightly, and I'm perfectly fine with it because the more quality depth on that offensive line, the merrier. But hey, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. All right, real quick, I want to shout out a couple ways you can support the channel. You can get some HBTC coffee of Benchwarmer Brew. This has got origin notes of Mexico and Ethiopia, a smooth medium roast, and it is one of the most popular blends of the lineup. Then you can also snag some HBTC merch. We've got Dad Bod Season, X Factor in honor of Dante Hall, mixed with Xavier Worthy, of course, and much more. Links to both the coffee and merch are in the description down below. Next up, we have answers to some of the proposals submitted at the annual league meetings that took place in Minnesota this week, with several things being voted on that were tabled or pushed back from the initial meetings prior to the draft. I dive much more in depth into all this on my second channel, Cole Breaks the Huddle, so check that out if you want, but basically, here's what you need to know. Yesterday, the owners voted 32-0 on allowing NFL players to play flag football in the upcoming 2028 Summer Olympics that's taking place in Los Angeles. This is the first time flag football is going to be in the Olympics. Now, the caveat to this is only 1 player per team is allowed to compete, plus their international pathway player, so a max of 2. And then, of course, said players would still have to actually make the team. The biggest wins from this are additional awareness for the NFL globally, but then it could also put more eyes on flag football for the Olympics, because watching somebody like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson throwing passes to Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, or Tyreek Hill would be pretty intriguing. Obviously, this is in 3 years, so I'm not saying it's going to be those players, but that's just an example for you. The biggest concerns from this, though, of course, are injuries. Non-contact sport or not, non-contact injuries could still happen. However, professional athletes from the NBA, NHL, MLB, among others, have represented their country in the Olympics for quite some time now, so I think it's time for the NFL to get on board with this as well, and they think so too, of course, and we'll be working with the NFLPA and Olympic officials to work out all the details over the coming years. So that was yesterday, but a bunch more happened today. The first was the Lions submitted a proposal that would base playoff seeding on regular season records rather than simply being able to win your division. To be clear, if a team won their division, they would still get a playoff spot, but they wouldn't be locked into the 4th seed at worst. Instead, they could fall all the way to the 7th seed depending on their record. Well, the support for this one was lackluster at best, so the Lions actually withdrew their playoff reseeding proposal before a vote could take place. That basically meant they didn't believe there would be enough support for it to even pass, but there is some support there, so they will continue this conversation probably next year. The biggest reasoning for why this could pass in the future is because when the NFL moves to an 18th regular season game, it's not going to happen next year, but in the near future, probably the next couple, 2-3 years, something like that. They want competitive games until the very end. They do not want teams resting their starters because they clinched their division and are set at the 4th seed at worst. If they had a chance to fall to the 7th seed, however, they would get no home field advantage at all in the playoffs and have to immediately face the 2nd seed in the wild card round. So that could be enough motivation to not rest their starters. But either way, nothing is changing for this year. Something that is changing for this year is a team's ability to attempt an onside kick outside of the 4th quarter. Last year, the trailing team could only declare an onside kick in the 4th quarter, but now they can opt for one at any point in the game when trailing. So, okay, cool, I guess. The chances of recovering an onside kick are pretty low as it is, so we shall see how many teams actually decide to do this prior to the 4th quarter this year. Something that many were hoping we would not see in 2025 is the infamous tush push, with the Packers submitting the initial proposal that would no longer allow the pulling or pushing of a ball carrier at any time. There was actually some pretty strong momentum here, with the belief around the league that this would get passed and nobody could then attempt a tush push, being limited to quarterback sneaks with nobody shoving the quarterback from behind, or it would draw a 10-yard penalty. The Eagles, of course, did not want this banned and even went as far as bringing in former center Jason Kelce so he could chat through things with the owners and people in attendance and explain it from his point of view. Roger Goodell, among others, though, reportedly were strong proponents of wanting it banned, citing player safety and pace of play as reasons against it, even though there hasn't been any real injuries as a result of this play. Well, they needed 24 votes for this to pass, meaning for the tush push to get banned, and they got 22 votes for, 10 against it. So they were 2 votes shy, which means the tush push is here to stay. It was close enough from getting shut down that I think it could very well be done away with another year, but not this one. The Eagles, of course, then began trolling on social media, particularly the Packers, because that was the team that initially submitted that proposal. And here's what they did. They shared a post on X that said push on, and of course it was Jalen Hurts about to run a tush push against the Packers. Then they posted a 26-minute video on their YouTube channel of this play being ran, and the thumbnail was them running the play against, you guessed it, the Packers. I really respect the trolling here, but nobody in their right mind is watching 26 minutes of that boring play. Let's be honest here. Now, for what it's worth, the 10 teams that voted to keep the tush push around for this season were the Eagles, Ravens, Browns, Lions, Jags, Dolphins, Patriots, Saints, Jets, and Titans. That obviously means the Chiefs did vote to ban the tush push. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest said that he's told the organization was very torn on the decision. It wasn't necessarily a clear-cut choice. But hey, let me know your thoughts on what did or did not change for this upcoming season. Were you hoping the playoff seeding proposal would have passed? What about the ban of the tush push? I'd love to read your thoughts, whether they are for or against any of these, as well as your thoughts on NFL players being able to play flag football in the upcoming Summer Olympics. And then I want to real quickly talk about the Chiefs' 3 preseason games. That does not normally get announced when the actual schedule drops, but here they are. August 9th is going to be at Arizona against the Cardinals at 6 p.m. Then August 15th is at Seattle Seahawks, 9 p.m. Central. Yeah, that is Central Time. That is late as hell, but hey, football is football. We're going to take it. And then their last game is August 22nd against the Bears at 7:20 p.m. Preseason games obviously do not matter, but now we at least know that football will be taking place, some form of NFL football, on August 9th, which is roughly 2.5 months away. Let's go. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on preseason schedule if you want, but more importantly, what did you like and not like about the proposals that got passed or didn't pass? Were you hoping the playoff seeding proposal was going to get passed, or what about the ban of the tush push? I would love to read your thoughts for or against all this, as well as your thoughts on NFL players being able to play flag football in the upcoming Summer Olympics. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?